Okay, so the goal of this thought primer is to come to some conclusions about the nature of artificial intelligence, what exactly it is, and what the ethical implications are for how we think about artificial intelligence. So we're going to be thinking a lot about these machines that we have in our lives, like our cell phones and our computers and the interwebs. These machines that seem to be doing something with information. What exactly are they doing with this information? And does what they're doing have ethical implications for us? So we're going to be thinking a lot about questions like these. What exactly is thinking? When I claim to be thinking, what am I claiming to be doing? And is what I'm doing when I am thinking something that a machine can currently do or will someday in the future be able to do? And if so, how are these thinking machines going to help us? And how could they harm us? And if my moral status and your moral status comes at least in part from the fact that we're thinking things, that we have consciousness, that distinguishes us from something like an ink pen, would that mean that a thinking machine would be something other? All right, so the goal of this thought primer is to develop some conclusions about the nature of artificial intelligence. What exactly is artificial intelligence, and what are the ethical implications for how we think about artificial intelligence? So we're going to be thinking a lot about the machines we have in our lives, our cell phones, our computers, the interwebs, these machines that seem to be doing something with information. Well, what exactly are they doing? And does what they're doing with information have ethical implications for us? So we're going to be thinking a lot about questions like these. What exactly is thinking? When I claim to be thinking, what am I claiming to be doing? And is what I'm doing when I'm thinking something that a machine can either do now or possibly someday in the future? And if it's possible for a machine to think, how can these thinking machines help us? And how could they potentially harm us? And if our moral status as human beings comes in part from the fact that we're thinking things, that we're conscious things, would a thinking machine have a different moral status from, say, an ink pen? And how much of our thinking do we want to turn over to these thinking machines? You're probably like me in that you don't do a kind of thinking that used to be very common for people to do just a few decades ago. And that is when I'm in one location and I want to figure out the most efficient way to get to a new location, I don't pull out a map and study it and try to figure out using my thinking what the best way to get from point A to point B is. Instead, I just type in the address, the location that I want to arrive at into my cell phone, and then I just do what my phone tells me to do. Turn left, turn right, keep going straight. Well, how much of our lives do we want to be responses to what the machines are telling us to do? Now, to get our heads wrapped around this concept of thinking and what exactly it is and whether or not a machine can do it, we might consider the concept of multiple realizability. The concept of multiple realizability says this, that the essence of a thing can manifest in many different ways. A thing can exist in many different forms. And an easy example to understand the concept of multiple realizability is the game of chess. When you think about the game of chess, you probably think about it in terms of a traditional board that looks like this one with pieces that are shaped like this. You've got the little castle that's the rook, and you've got the horse representing the knight, and you've got some crowned figures representing the king and the queen. And you know that the essence of these pieces is in what they do. They can move in particular ways. There's certain rules that each of the pieces have to adhere to in order for the game of chess to actually function. But you know that the essence of the chess pieces and the essence of chess isn't embodied in the particular shape of the pieces. A chessboard can look very differently. The pieces can look very different. They can look like this, for example, like with some bolts and some screws. And what's important here is that we recognize that even though the pieces look different on this chessboard, the essence remains the same. It doesn't matter what the rook looks like. It can look like a castle, or it can look like this bolt or this screw here, or this bolt. What matters is that the bolt have the same essence as the little castle figure, that it can move in straight lines, either forward, backward, left, right, but not diagonally on the chessboard. And we could even extend this so far as to say that we can imagine chess without any board at all and without any pieces at all, right? So people sometimes, they play chess like you see here on this sheet of paper. right? And they can even play it in their minds. I was listening to this podcast with the chess grandmaster named Magnus Carlsen, I think that's his name, and he was saying that he doesn't even need a board or a piece of paper to play chess, that he can play it in his mind. Just simply close his eyes and think about it. And he can think about the essence of the game, the essence of what the pieces represent and how they can move around the board. And so when we think about thinking and whether or not this is something a machine can do, that's what we want to consider. What's the essence of thinking? And is the essence of thinking something that could be embodied in a machine? And so really the question we're asking is a mind like a computer? I know that two very differently structured computers can run the exact same software, right? The two different computers can perform the same functions in a way that looks just the same. I can open up Microsoft Word on my Macintosh, you can open it up on your PC, and the software is in essence the same. We know that two different brains can have the same thoughts, right? You're right now having some of the thoughts that I can have, and I'm having some of the thoughts that you can have. It just takes, we just have to share the essence of what it is that constitutes the thought. And so what we're really asking here is, okay, is my brain, right, that organ of noodly stuff that's captured in my skull, is that really like hardware on a computer? And are the thoughts that my brain generates akin to the algorithms and the software that are produced by my computer? And can a computer create what a brain creates? That is, thoughts. Okay, so those are the questions that we want to have in mind. Those are the questions we want to attempt to come to some conclusions to.